property, it was still not doable. Starting a grow operation without a storefront, with those kinds of margins, it's really tough with the tax issues that we have today. Thankfully, hopefully, we'll have some relief on some of those tax issues by the time we're a year to 2 years from now. We can hope that Congress will move on some of those things and make smaller businesses more viable. But from the setup that we have from the MMFLA, it is made to keep small businesses out. It is made not for the people that were running this market, not from the people who suffered from prohibition for this market. It is made for large money corporations to come in and make money. The Craft Cannabis Act thus far is the best thing that I've seen that tries to reach a hand out to those people that were in the caregiver market to say that there is room for a small business here. There is room for people to come in here and do this. What they've set up, what Eric and Banks and Company and Matt and this group has set up, a $750 fee to get a license. Your requirement, your capitalization requirement is only $75,000. That's half of what the lowest capitalization requirement is right now. And that capitalization requirement comes in after you've done a year of business. So you can start your business and use the value of your business like any other business normally would to get that capitalization requirement and try and get your foot in that door. And there's good information coming out right now that the people that start these businesses, as long as they focus on quality, will have a place in the market. When you look at a couple of years ago when I was doing all this business modeling and looking at like what's it like to start a grow, what's it like to start a provisioning center, a processing center, grows are the hardest ones to do, they say, at first, because, and the reality happens is that the price drops out from the market. As more grows start to happen, the prices drop. But one thing that is, over the last couple of years, that's been surprisingly true is quality maintains its price. The big guys are not doing that. I can tell you the Skymint place over in Lansing, their 55,000 square foot facility, they're growing all autoflowering plants. And I don't know if any of you who grow know anything about that. Autoflowering means that plant, part of the genetics that went in there, part of the breeding is just to make it go from 60 to 70 days from seed to harvest. So part of the genetics that you're spending there is just for that, and part of the requirement of that is they all are seeds. So there's no consistency from clones and things like that. And there's actually a good video that was put out by a news organization in Canada just this last week that was one of their biggest cannabis consultants who's taken over one of the businesses that had problems there and has consulted for Aurora and Canopy and stuff like that, has basically come out and said that they're driving people back to the dark market in Canada. All these places are starting these huge facilities, and people are unhappy with the quality of what's coming out with it, and they're going back to their street corner dealers and things like that. So what we need to do is, like the plans that like Eric's come up with, to try and give an outlet to those smaller producers, the people who have the space to focus on each plant, who really have to get every dollar out of every plant, can focus on quality and have a place in the market. California is still saying, like you have price of weed if you're growing outdoor or greenhouse, you're talking somewhere between $400 and $1,000 a pound or something like that. The people that are growing quality, they're saying, you can still easily get $2,000 to $3,200 a pound in California, even with a somewhat saturated market.
Yeah, I had to go that far. Okay.
So we're going to continue. I'm going to give what I want to, there's two things that I want to tell, and then I'm going to give Eric 60 seconds. You know that means 2 minutes, man, because you know he's not going to teach that. But no, you're not 60 seconds for real, Eric. I'm serious. Okay. So 2 things that are very, very important. One of the things that are important in our community is, as we see a small amount, is that the information is not being shared, right? Y'all didn't know none of this was going on, right? And we're in the heights that we have already opted in. Do y'all understand that? There are 9 cannabis businesses that will be here in some way, shape, or form. And so you don't know. So one of the major things that we're going to be doing for M4MM is doing statewide campaigns to give this information. That's the first thing. Second thing is that, of course, we are going to be supporting this craft, this commercial bill, that I'm going to have Eric tell you a 3-point bullet of, okay, 4-point bullet of what the actual bill is, because it is very, very important. So that's that. And then in addition to that, we also want you guys to know there's opportunities in hemp, there's opportunities in CBD, and as the president of Minorities for Medical Marijuana, my goal is to actually make, in the next 24 months, 5 millionaires. That's my goal, right? And so that is very, very doable. African American millionaire, right? So we can actually do this. Whether or not you know this or not, everybody else in the country calls Michigan the green rush, the green state, all right? So people all over want to come here. We have wonderful, great, so many things that are good. One, we're surrounded by the body of water, right? So we don't need outside infiltration systems. That's a great opportunity. Michigan is offering a host of different grants. Most of our municipalities with this Commercial Craft Cannabis Act, we actually get a chance for so many individuals to get into the market so we can get rid of the disparity. So really quickly, we're going to let Eric tell us, and if you want to be involved, if this is something that you want to be involved in, you want to push the narrative, you want to talk more about it, please, we have everybody email while we're reaching out to everyone. Join M4MM. It is the biggest organization. We will be feeding the homeless. We're doing barbershop check-ins, but we're letting the world and everybody in Michigan know there is a seat at the table. And I always say, when they did not offer me a seat at the table, I built a room and I invited my own people to come in and eat. Right?
All right.
Amen. Here, 60
I won't do you like I used to do Charlie Becker.
I'm believe
Talk for the first 2 minutes about why he was looking at me.
Yes,
So-
Eric, you know that we on Thursday, so
So, here's what we're doing in the Commercial Cannabis Craft Act in 3 sections. One, as it relates to the original MMA Act, we're creating a mechanism for existing caregivers to have the ability, as Jay mentioned, to transition to micro-manufacturing, where they'll be able to use their current structure, but they'll be able to now sell to provisioning centers, growers, and processors, grow up to 250 plants, and if they're in a local community that has allowed them to operate in a commercial environment, commercial, agricultural, industrial, they'll be able to be in those areas for that transitional year, which gives the local community time to decide if they want to opt in at minimum just for the micro-manufacturers. There's a 1% levy on the sales tax levy, that 40% would go to the local community, 30% to the host county, and then 30% to the state for roads and infrastructure or mental health. Then, on the MMFLA side, it creates a 6th license class, which is micro-manufacturing license. Then it also will allow for provisioning centers to sell to adult use. Because right now, the adult use with recreational, that activity of you actually getting product in your hand is illegal. So, until commercial facilities open up. So you have people doing gifting. Gifting is not individual gifting, legal. Commercial gifting, not legal. You have people setting up commercial places to do gifting. We want to stop that, but then allow people to buy for themselves from these provisioning centers who have tested product. Everything, especially if you go into the micro-manufacturing, you have to comply with testing and quality. And also, as it relates to the MMA and the MMFLA for them, we want to push and have provisions to help encourage research, universities, healthcare organizations, and others to partner with the micro-manufacturers to focus on the continuing research. Now, On the adult use side, for the MRTMA, like we mentioned, we want to eliminate the gifting option through commercial environments, allow those individuals to buy through the through the medical provisioning centers until the commercial facilities open up, and then they would buy at the commercial recreational facilities. But we also want to, on the home use side, have, if you're going to bring in commercial equipment into your home, which the law allows you to do for growing and processing, especially for the processing, we want you to register your equipment, that commercial equipment, with your host community, and complete a class on safe growing and processing techniques. That's just putting some safeguards. It's not saying you can't do it for yourself on 12 plants for you, but that's saying you're going to bring in commercial equipment. We want to make sure that we know what it is if there's an incident, and make sure you at least have some understanding of safe processing. Additionally, on the medical side, there's a 3% excise tax that was levied, with 30% going to the host county, 25% to the host city, 5% to the county sheriff. That tax went away because of the recreational bill that passed. We want to allow that to kickstart and put that back in place, because local communities that opted in, a number of them have budgeted for those receipts. Then lastly, we want to also, because of the monies that come from the 6% sales tax at the provisioning centers, plus the 10% excise tax through adult use sales, if you've opted in, we want the school aid portion of those dollars to be redirected back to the host community and its school district, similar to the 20J dollars that were allowed under Prop A for the 22 school districts that were going to lose money by going to that model. So the framework is there. So for Muskegon and Muskegon Heights, those dollars that are generated at your provisioning centers will come back to your host school district instead of going and dividing among all the other communities across the state. And then one last thing too. Right now, per the state in their report to the oversight committee, there's been $46 million worth of medical marijuana sales, tested product, 9,000 pounds. That averages out to $5,111 per pound. That is an unsustainable price for the small businesses, whereas the Walmart type businesses can sustain those sort of losses. By creating this micro-manufacturing path for caregivers to go in and be able to sell commercially, legally, it can drop and get us to an equilibrium. So wherein the pricing for the products and the quality matches what the need are for the patients and for adult use. That's the only way, because right now, the Large Grow, the Green Peak, and the others, they like that $5,100 because it drives out the Michigan-based person who got a cultivation license who can't sustain themselves at that number.
So we give a chance to level the playing field.
Can I ask a question? Just one. Now, the cost of such manufacturing equipment that would be considered on the level of the program that you're talking about, what's the cost of such equipment?
It depends on what you're talking about, like what level you're talking about. Usually if you're talking about growing, if you're talking about building a facility with everything involved,
Well, I'm
or
okay.
you're just talking about like
Home facility.
a home facility, how many square feet you think?
Average basement or
Average
garage.
basement? So if you wanted to do 12 plants, like you wanted to do like a 10 by 10 room or something like that, you're probably looking at about like four high pressure sodium lamps for something that, 4 to 5 for that, something like that, those are gonna run probably about $350 a pop.
Okay.